And joining us now here at the CJN Daily is Hannah Alper. Thanks so much for being with us.
It is so awesome to be here. Hello.
Hello from Richmond Hill, and represent, because both of us live in Richmond Hill, not too far.
I know, it's truly Jewish geography at its finest, honestly.
It is, and I'm catching you probably within days of your moving to another city for university. How is that? What's the countdown?
As of right now, it is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It is 5 days away, and it is crazy. It's exciting. It's nerve-wracking. It's stressful. It's everything, and I think that's totally normal feelings to feel about moving away to university. And I'm just so incredibly excited because the school that I'm going to in the program is really all about everything that I've been doing since I was 9 years old as an activist. It's just truly kind of opening a new chapter, but really building on everything that I've been learning to hopefully help other people explore my passions, explore my interests, to make the world a little bit better than when we first found it, which is what I kind of try to inspire people to do in their everyday life.
You're going to be going to, can we say where? Western?
Of course, please.
All right, so you're going to be going to Western University, and
Yeah.
I know you couldn't go without some putting an activist or environmental, point of view on living in a dorm. So maybe we can talk a little bit more. Walk us through some of the things that you personally think people should be doing, and you're going to be doing to make your dorm life more less of a polluting footprint and more environmental.
Yeah, I think that a huge misconception that people have about being eco-friendly is that you have to almost be all or nothing, and that you have to go completely zero waste to make a difference. But I really believe that it's the little things that add to make a big difference, and that we all have the power to kind of shift our everyday lives a little bit and our habits to be a little bit more eco-friendly and sustainable and reduce our carbon footprint. And so for me, that's I've been buying recycled notebooks. Me and my mom have been looking and have already bought eco-friendly cleaning supplies, which is something that anyone can do. And it's really not even more expensive than non-eco-friendly cleaning supplies. So that's really important. Bringing reusable water bottles, reusable lunch containers, everything like that, because even that reduces your footprint, your carbon footprint, and it really makes you feel good about the things that you're doing. And then maybe it's also a great conversation starter because someone can ask why you're doing that, and then maybe you can inspire that person to go a little bit further in their own change-making journey. And it's really is such a simple step, and it's a real tangible step that actually makes a difference because you're taking that step in your everyday life to not use waste and to use less waste. And so, and again, I think it really is such a common myth that it has to be all or nothing, but I think that's so far from it, and even a little bit helps.
I'm sure you were aware, having worked for the Friends of Simon Wiesenthal all summer as an intern, about the rise in anti-Semitism on campus this past year. So you're going off to Western, and I want to talk a bit about how prepared you might be for the anti-Semitism and anti-Israel and anti-Zionism that is at your school, as well as many other campuses around the world.
I'm definitely going to be looking into and definitely going to be trying Hillel and Chabad and joining those places because it's really such a sense of empowerment and community. And I think that now more than ever, Jewish people need to stick together, and Jewish teenagers and young people need to stick together in the face of the rising anti-Semitism that's been happening. And it was honestly so heartbreaking seeing all the anti-Semitism that was taking place and anti-Zionism that was taking place, not in thousands and thousands of miles away, but right here, right where we live, and in Toronto and in London and online. And so that was really hard to see not how little we've progressed, but that we think that we've progressed so much when it comes to hate and bigotry. And it turns out that sometimes we really haven't. And I think this is one of those examples. And I think that I truly believe in peace. And I think that I feel for the victims completely on both sides. And I think that it is justifiable to criticize governments and be educated on different issues. But it's not okay to criticize and hate on an entire group of people, especially people that are just trying to live and practice their identity and who they are. And it's definitely a little bit scary, especially as we are coming off of the conflict and all of this scary and frightening and completely, honestly, traumatizing anti-Semitism. And when I was working at the Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center, it was a conversation that we talked about a lot, how students on campus can deal with this. And a lot of it is, if you see something, say something. If you hear about students having conversation that sounds anti-Semitic or anti-Zionist, it's important to stand up and to say something and to be educated and educate people, because really knowledge is power. You can't take action on an issue if you don't care about it, and you can't care about an issue if you don't know about it. And I'm so passionate about that. And I know that that is really scary, especially as Jews. I spoke up on racism when the George Floyd incidents happened, and for Asian Americans. And then it's almost that when it happened to Jews, it's so much scarier because it's hit so close to home. And so I know I was really scared posting about it. So I posted a lot more about misinformation and how important it is to not just post Instagram infographics and to truly do your research. So I think that's something that on campus I would really like not just me to advocate for, but I think it's so important for schools and the administration to advocate against misinformation and to advocate for media literacy, share the right source, share sources from both sides, sharing both sides, but advocating against hate and making everyone feel safe and comfortable and welcomed. And as a student that's going there, I would really, really, we need to see that happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be excited about, starting off your journey, but to be aware
Scary.
that you're going into a place that doesn't want Jews. So, or at least
Especially when
majority of
it's a
the
lot.
Muslim Students Association and the president of the overall student association agrees, because he's on that committee.
Right. And there's so many kinds of racism that happens in the world. And I think that as Jews, as Muslims, I think that people need to stand with each other, because I think that we can erase one form of hate when we erase all forms of hate. And we've seen time after time, Jews and rabbis marched with Martin Luther King Jr. at Selma. And I think that's such an incredible testament to what happens and the amazing things that can happen when we come together. And all of these different hates are so incredibly real, and we need to stand together. And I just don't understand why people have to almost pit people against each other. And I also do notice that because Jews sometimes aren't as much of a visible minority, it's the only people that talk about anti-Semitism are Jews. And I believe that also really, really needs to change, especially as a young person that's on social media all the time. I think me and my friends see that constantly.
Yeah, I did report about it earlier this summer in May and June, and some of the other Hillel students said they felt a deluge of hatred. That was when the hostilities were happening. It's quieting down now, so we'll see what happens. Moving to what you mentioned earlier about it's your first vote, your first time voting. This is an election that will be basically the third week of school for you.
Yep.
Do you get to vote are you going to vote in Richmond Hill, or you're going to vote in your new place?
I think actually in the next couple of days, I'm going to stop by an Elections Canada office and vote from there, vote early. I think it's just easier all around, and I definitely rather vote at home. And I'm so excited. This is something that I've definitely been looking forward to for a really long time. And I've always talked for so long as an activist about having a voice, and that you can have a voice in so many ways. And I've always talked about, when I'm talking about voting, what you can do when you're not old enough, and that you can convince other people how to use their vote. And now I'm kind of in that position. So I feel very lucky that I think that we in Canada really have that opportunity to vote in this incredible democracy. And I think a lot of us forget that sometimes, that not everywhere has the vibrant democracy that we have. So I'm really, really lucky. And I think, you're talking about anti-Semitism, and I will definitely be looking into and voting for the people that will stand with all groups of people and that will stand against all kinds of hate.
All right, but you are known for your environmental passion. So let's talk about what have you been observing from the various parties that you want to highlight? I mean, who's closest to your view of what we should be doing to save the planet?
It's a really good question. I definitely think it would definitely be either Liberal or NDP, but I think that it's hard, because you can't just base who you're voting for off of one issue, because that's not how it works. And also it's hard because a lot of politicians say things, and sometimes those things don't always come into fruition and come into action, whether that can be for a number of reasons. So that's something that I'm definitely looking into, and I think a lot of that will come to researching the action that they'll take, especially coming off of the new report that was just published. And it's just so many things. And the truth is that climate change is real, it's worsening, and the only thing that we can do is slow it down. And so it comes up to those people that will take the serious actions needed to slow it down for the present and the future generations, because it's not just about us anymore. It's about my children, my grandchildren. And, people said 20 years ago that enough is enough, but I don't think anyone ever really meant it. But now enough is really enough, and politicians need to actually stand up and do something.
Speaking today after a summer of heat domes in BC, wildfires that have made people die, as well as animals, as well as people's asthma. We're in the middle of a hurricane in the United States. It's been boiling hot in Ontario and Quebec for the past 2 weeks. In your opinion, I mean, you've been doing this since you were a little girl. 10 years have passed, almost. Are people finally this summer, did they wake up all across Canada at least and say, we got to do something, do you think? Or I mean, how did the terrible summer actually help the cause?
I think that it does help the cause in the way that social media and things were and other sources were able to amplify the cause, and were able to, because I think it's so awful and visual. But I think at the same time, I think climate change is such a huge issue. And so I hope that it woke up the minds of the powerful, and I hope it woke up the minds of the CEOs and government officials and politicians, because I think those are the people that really have the true power to stand up and to say something and create like real change. But then it's people like us that we can write to our politicians, and we can talk about why this matters to us. And people right in our own country, in our own province, are being affected by this. And frankly, as someone that's been taking action on the environment and so many issues for so long, since I was 9, it's so depressing. I've been seeing so many climate activists talking about it. It's depressing. It makes you anxious, and it makes you think that sometimes that all that you do isn't really worth it, because look at all that's going on in the world. And with climate change, it's hard to really control it, because yes, climate change is, human made, but it's hard to stop it right now at the rate that it's at. But I think that what you can remember is that I'm a very optimistic person, and I really believe in hope. And I think that if we do take the actions that are needed and necessary, and if we have the new normal be taking the steps to reduce our carbon emissions and to slow down the negative impacts of climate change, I think that things can change. But it can't be thoughts and sayings anymore. It can't be thoughts and prayers. So many prayers to the people in Alberta and Ontario, et cetera, everywhere in the world. It has to be action. And I think that's what has to be different this year. But I think we say that every year. So I guess time will tell. And me and so many of the other incredible young people and people in the world that are fighting for a better present and a better future will keep fighting for that future that we all hope to live in.
I know on Fridays for Future, before the pandemic, when people were going out on Fridays, and Greta was doing her Fridays for Future, and all across Canada that was happening as well. But now people couldn't get together because of social distancing, and so how has the pandemic impacted the work you've been able to do over the last 18 months because of being at home?
I think it's made it different. For example, with an issue like homelessness and food insecurity, that's an issue that was obviously amplified so much more because people lost their jobs and experienced so much financial loss during COVID. So it was the actions like me and my family made 150 sandwiches and 300 cookies for Bea Hafta during the pandemic, and for people experiencing homelessness. And I volunteered at the food bank twice this summer, so that was a really great thing. And as definitely served as a reminder that food banks are so incredible and need as much help as possible, and that's so important. And I think that also social media and the online space, I think we're so incredibly lucky to be living in a time where we can use that to make a difference. And I believe that social media is one of the best tools that you can use to make a difference. So instead of people marching in person, people have been forming these incredible digital marches online with people, where people from around the world can come together and speak about the issues they're passionate about, speak about the solutions they believe in, and everything like that. So I think it's been really actually kind of incredible and optimistic and hopeful, and reminds me once again of the power of young people to watch this power unfold that young people have had, and that they've been using. And I say we, my generation, have been using the pandemic to learn, to unlearn about different issues, and to get back up and take action. I don't think we're slowing down.
I want to bring up the We charity, if I may.
Of
I know
course. Yeah.
that was where you started. You even got a letter of reference from Craig when we were little. Um, you're not still doing any work for that. How is that loss of that platform and that outlet where you spent so many years? How are you dealing with not being able to do that anymore?
It was pretty devastating when the organization announced their shutdown in Canada, because I truly believe that they did so much incredible work for over 25 years. Craig Kielburger was 12 years old when he started the We movement. And I think that I think that's the politics and the media and so much corruption everywhere, I think really did bring them down. And it was really, really sad to watch. But I was an ambassador with them for about 6 years. Mark and Craig were my first role models. They wrote the foreword of my book. They were my biggest role models, 100%, and my mentors throughout my entire journey. So it was definitely really sad. I mean, I went to Kenya with them 3 times with the charity, and I was able to meet the people whose lives they truly impacted. And I think that's something that's kind of gotten a little lost in this whole translation with in the truth of what's become of the organization, is that the work that young people at home here in Canada and in North America have put into the organization, and the money that they raised, the non-perishable food items that they collected, going trick-or-treating for Halloween, all the amazing things they did, that was real. They raised money for wells, they raised money for schools. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that those actions were real. And I really tried to convey to young people that were involved with the organization to keep going, and that the essence of We, and that essence of the empowering young people to create change and believe that we can make the world a better place, and that a better place is possible, and that they're role models and everything, that is still true and real, and that has not been lost. And I think that there are so many young people who are persevering through everything that's happened, and it's pretty heartbreaking. But I think that there are so many young people who are making so much change that have come out of it, including myself. I'm very confident to say that I wouldn't be where I am today without the organization. And I'm very happy that the people in Kenya that they were able to help are still getting the help, and that the impact that young people like me, like millions of people across North America made, that impact isn't leaving, because those kids are still going to school. They're still getting fresh, clean water, food, healthcare, everything like that. And even in COVID. So I think it's sad, but it's really good to know that young people are still persevering, and that impact is not gone. Oh, sorry, you're on mute.
So that's my fault. So you're about to spend your last few days, and then you're heading into Frosh Week. Are you double vaccinated?
I am. I have been double vaxxed for a while.
And are you a little nervous about, all those people being so all together and like mosh pits?
I'm more nervous about my social skills probably than COVID, only because Western is truly such an incredible school, and they have taken the best steps possible to reduce the impact of COVID-19 and reduce the spread of it. No one can come onto campus if they're not vaccinated, as far as I know. They keep releasing kind of different guidelines as time has gone on, based on the progression of case numbers and everything like that. So me and my parents feel very comfortable, and we have been very COVID safe. And so I'm not worried about that. I'm probably more worried about what it's just going to be like being in a social space again, because I've been able to hang out with my friends, but not like this. So I'm kind of worried that I'll just be really awkward more than the impact of COVID.
You and everybody else that's still starting to flex the muscles a little bit, that they, forget how to go to a restaurant or whatever,
Exactly. Well, social connecting over physical distancing was our life for a year and a half. And so for teenagers, it's weird. I haven't done an exam or tests in 2 years. So that's going to be a weird transition as well.
You're going into journalism and communications, right?
Yeah. Media.
So how are you going to manage all your blogging and your appearances and your talks with actually like being in class and going to do homework again, but double what you were before, because it's in person?
I think it'll be amazing, because I think that the things that I'm learning in school will help me in my activism. I'm so excited. I'm taking a course called Navigating Our Media Landscape, #media culture. I'm taking a political science course. I'm taking a course called Social Determinants of Health. So these are all things that relate to issues that I'm so passionate about and that I want to learn more about. Oh, I'm taking environmental science, which I have no doubt we'll talk about all of the recent climate change impacts that have been happening around the world and especially at home. So I think there are so many things that I'll kind of be able to intersect. I'll be able to talk about my activism in essays, and I'll be able to talk about my essays and my schoolwork in my activism. And that's kind of been almost such a common thing throughout my journey. You know, I went across Canada for 3 months to go to school to talk about global education. And that was almost more education than I could have gotten being in actual school. And I was able to do both, which was great. But I think they're going to intersect and interconnect so much. And I'm so excited about that. But I think that when you really love something and you love doing something, you can handle it. And I have loved helping people and learning about issues and trying to take action on issues and inspiring other people to take action on issues for so long. And I think I might definitely be taking a bit of breaks here and there so that I can pass, because that's kind of important. But I don't think I'm definitely stopping anytime soon.
We wish you good luck in your continued journey, and Happy New Year, and have a great time in the first couple of weeks. Freshman 15, remember that. Eh?
Oh, I will in the dining hall. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for being on the CJN Daily. It's been great to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.